after his retirement, Witchey stayed in the area in the around Arlington, and he lived very close by to Fort Myer. In September of 1945, he enters Walter Reed Hospital and passes away from heart disease at a very young age. Um, he was only in his 50s, I believe, when he passed away. But he was buried with full military honors in Arlington, um, close by. I think it's section 17 or 18 is where he's buried. Section 18. That's right, section 18. Close by near the Pershing Hill, actually. Now, the bugle that he used during his time was one of the standard issue bugles. But because he sounded it at the ceremony for the tomb, he decided to go ahead and buy it from the Army. And he actually bought it for like $2.75, reimbursed the quartermaster. uh, and he had it engraved with all the special ceremonies that he did on it. It actually has engraved the words "taps sounded over the body of unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery, November 11, 1921." And then he added on uh, General Nelson Miles, May 19th, 1925, Williams Jennings Bryan, July 31st, 1925. Uh, so he and he also had the bugle gold plated too. Um, in 1927, a collector had offered him $1,500 for the bugles, which is a lots of money at that time. We're talking, oh my goodness, that has to be at least $75,000 in today's money. But he refused to sell it. Now, when Witchey passed away in 1945, somehow the bugle went missing. Nobody knows exactly what happened to it. Then in 1961, the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, which was then stationed at Fort Meade, decided they wanted to search for the bugle. And they put out ads in papers, and they started talking to anybody who would know what happened to it. The family said they weren't sure what happened to it, but then it turned out that a tax consultant in Alexandria, Virginia, said that Witchey had sold him the bugle before he passed away, but he didn't tell anybody. So they got the bugle back. Is the long story short. And then the family donated it to the 3rd Armory Regiment. And then it's now in the 3rd Cavalry Museum down in Texas. So the bugles has been brought, it's supposed to be brought up for the anniversary. And I'm hoping that it will be, because I certainly like to take a look at it close up. And talking with members of the United States Army band, Pershing Zone, we're hoping that we can get the bugle and then have it performed by one of their outstanding buglers and make a recording of some of the calls. That way we'd have, the original bugle and what it sounds like today. And I think that would be a tremendous thing. It's been a terrific journey finding out information about this bugler, because you've seen photos of him through the Library of Congress, the National Archives, and online, and you never know, like, well, who is this guy? What's he doing there? And through the efforts of folks I've been associated with, they've provided some wonderful information, and it's nice to know about this bugler. Now, he may not have been like as well trained as the musicians are today who are in the Army band, but he certainly could blow bugle calls, and that's what he was known for at that time. And so we owe him a lot of thanks for his efforts, because I'm sure to be thrown into a big ceremony like that was really something for him. There are no still photos that I can find of him on November 11th. However, um, in the movie reels of taken that day, as they bring the casket onto the plaza, the camera goes right by him, so you can see him on the side. Unfortunately, there's no movies or photos of him taken while he's actually playing. Sad to say.
It
That
is,
would have been nice.
yes. As you were talking, which is incredibly fascinating, I'd probably talk to you a lot more about this. One thing that came to mind is, is there a difference between an army issued bugle at the time and say a trumpet? And do they sound different?
Well, they sound alike. Basically, the bugles of the time are actually called trumpets, and the reason they're called trumpets is because the way the bell is shaped. Um, a bugle and trumpet are the names are used. You know, a lot. They mean the same thing basically. They're interchanged, but basically there are two different types of horns: a trumpet and a bugle. A trumpet has more of a cylindrical bell, giving it a much brighter sound. A bugle has a more conical shape, which gives it a darker, more mellow sound. The instrument that Frank Witchey was using, and what the instruments that are used now by the Army Band, are basically trumpets, but they're trumpets without the valves. You don't have the three valves on them. So if you can imagine an instrument that is minus that, that's what the bugle or trumpet looks like today. Um, these bugles were came into use in 1892. They're actually referred to as the the M1892 trumpet. That's the specification. Um, of course, you being an infantry guy, you know what the M16, models. Back for musicians in the military, M1892 refers to that bugle, and that was the bugle that has been used ever since. In fact, it becomes the basis of all drum and bugle corps in the 1920s, and then goes up till today. Basically, it's the same horn. In 1950, the Army Band approached Vincent Bach, who was a big instrument maker in New York. He was very renowned for the great trumpets that he made. The Army Band approached him with the idea of making special bugles for use at Arlington National Cemetery, with the idea that to take that M1892 model, but change it just a little bit, change the key, and also make a much better quality version of it for the professionals who would play it, which he did. And those horns are still used today at Arlington. So when you when you see a ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and see a bugler from the U.S. Army Band, he's playing the same type of bugle that Frank Witchey had, but it's updated, one that was made by the Vincent Bach Corporation. The Army Band is also looking at new versions of the bugle, and they've reached out to David Monette, who's an instrument maker on the West Coast, and he produced 3 Monette bugles to be used at the tomb also. Sometimes comes down to personal choice for these musicians, whatever they feel comfortable on and what makes the best sound. Because as you know, and the world will know, all you have to do is go to YouTube and look up a ceremony at the tomb. You'll find that every time that a bugler sounds taps, it's always perfect. They never miss a note. And to do that, the bugler, those musicians want to have the finest instrument possible. So that's, of course, they're the best musicians in the world too. Um, Sounding taps at the tomb is a very special and unique duty for musicians. I've referred to it as the the Carnegie Hall for military musicians. It's the most important place where you'll ever sound your instrument. And of course, it's nerve-wracking for buglers to go up there for the first time to sound the call. It's pretty nerve-wracking. You know, you have years and years and years of professional study. You play with the band, and then you're thrust out on that plaza, and it can be a little intimidating.
Yeah,
But
well, it sounds like Frank was the original Sergeant B, as we as Tomb Guards know our trumpeters that they come from the old guard. And I know we've spoken to them on a previous tidbit about some of the pressures that they go through, especially having to go from their world and what they're used to suddenly being put onto the plaza and a ceremony. This kind of ties perfectly in because I've got another tidbit that's going to be talking to buglers again, specifically those that are assigned as the Sergeant B, as well as some of the drummers that go out and they play the critical events when it comes to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So this has been fascinating. I appreciate it, Jari. It's truly unique. And I know that you're going to be with us in
yes,
November for Centennial Week, and you're going to get a chance to present not only more of this information and some history, but a little bit more in detail about the bugles and taps itself.
yes.
In the meantime, though, how does the public find out more about what you're doing with Taps for Veterans? What are your plans, and just how to email you?
Well, it's very easy to get hold of me. I always joke that if you type in the word taps, I come up in the search almost right away. But the way to get hold of me, I have two websites. My main website is tapsbugler.com. Very easy, just Taps Bugler. A lot of history about bugling and taps, almost any protocol questions, like what to do when you hear taps. A lot of people don't know what to do, so go to that site. The other site is, of course, tapsforveterans.org. And that will have the information about the Taps Across America event on Memorial Day, also the 100 Nights of Taps, and then, of course, the information that we'll have for the Centennial. You can also reach me on Facebook. I am Taps Bugler. So all you have to do is type in Taps Bugler on Facebook and you'll find me. My email address is quite simple. You can find it through Facebook, or it's so easy, Jari, Jari, at tapsbugler.com. And I welcome questions about bugling or bugles. A lot of people will call me or excuse me, write to me and say, I have this bugle that's been up in the attic for years and years and years. Can you tell me what it is? And I'm more than happy to explain what it is. People will then ask questions about taps or bugle calls. I'm always happy to answer questions and help spread, what we do. Because bottom line with all this, we're here to honor, the unknown soldier on this very important occasion. And in doing so, having a live bugler is just so important. And, on that day, on Thursday, November 11th, 2021, there's going to be a U.S. Army bugler who will stand on the plaza and play those 24 notes that were sounded 100 years previous by Frank Witchey. And we've had hundreds and hundreds of buglers over these hundreds of years who sounded that call on the plaza. And it's all, in honor of the unknown soldiers, I should say, who rest, in honored glory at Arlington National Cemetery. And then, of course, hoping that we can provide live buglers for military funerals around the country.
Yes, that's incredibly important, and thank you for pointing that out. I think that there's probably a big pool of young buglers that are in high school and are thinking about a career in either the military bands or just being able to honor people in their own communities. And I know that you're a great point of contact that can guide them and mentor them. And I look forward to seeing how that all develops in the future. So thank you again for talking about Sergeant Frank
Sure.
Witchey. and what he did 100 years ago. And we look forward to talking to you again.
Great. Thank you so
Great.
much for the opportunity.
We'll see you later. Thanks.